Tonight on NewsWatch, fighting for Ukraine, what the former president is saying about the revolution in his country.
Plus, building the Ark, how those behind the Creation Museum are moving forward with a life-size replica of the biblical boat.
And hear how gospel music is opening doors in the mission field in the Far East. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. Ukraine's now fugitive former president says he'll fight for the future of his country. Viktor Yanukovych today made his first public appearance since fleeing the country. Speaking from neighboring Russia, Yanukovych insisted he is still the elected leader of Ukraine and that he wasn't giving up his power. Even though he's in Russia, Yanukovych says he has no plans to ask for Russian military help in Ukraine and that he has not spoken with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Despite that statement, new concerns tonight over a Russian military presence in eastern Ukraine. Russian troops now control an airport near their naval base in Sevastopol. The Ukrainian Interior Minister calls it a military invasion and occupation. Meanwhile, a standoff with gunmen occupying the Crimean parliament is well into its second day. George Thomas brings more from Ukraine.
For a second day, about 50 pro-Russian gunmen control the parliament here in Simferopol, southern Ukraine. They are reportedly armed with automatic weapons, explosives, and enough ammunition to last a month. Authorities have surrounded the building. The country's new interim president has ordered the military to use whatever means necessary to retake the building.
Anyone who tries to, and I stress anyone, to take over the government buildings in Ukraine's east, west, center, south, and north is going to be treated as having committed a crime against the government of Ukraine.
CBN News remained on the scene several hours after the men entered the building. According to witnesses, masked gunmen stormed Parliament early Thursday and hoisted a Russian flag atop the building. Since then, hundreds chanting Russia have been protesting outside Parliament, demanding lawmakers take up a referendum about seceding from Ukraine and joining Russia.
The drama unfolding here outside the Crimean parliament comes at a very tenuous time here for the folks in southern Ukraine. You see, they've been seeing the events playing out in the capital city, Kiev, and they bottom line do not like the fact that Viktor Yanukovych was impeached, that he was removed from office. Neither do they trust the new leadership that has taken control of the country.
What we have here is a group of people who wants to be connected with Russia because we no longer support or trust the Ukrainian government.
The standoff has dramatically increased tensions in an already volatile region where the population's loyalty is divided. This week, Ukraine warned Russia not to intervene militarily.
Any movements by the military beyond this territory will be considered as military aggression.
Russia's surprise announcement to hold military exercises close to Ukraine's border hasn't helped tensions either. Meanwhile, for the first time since his impeachment, former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych appeared on television refusing to accept his removal. This as Ukraine's parliament begins the job of recovering some of the billions of dollars that went missing during his time as president. George Thomas, CBN News, Simferopol, Ukraine.
For a behind-the-scenes look at George's travels, including a behind-the-scenes look at Yanukovych's palace, make sure you check out his Facebook page. Just search George Thomas, CBN News. And while you're there, like the CBN News Facebook page as well.
Al-Qaeda's leader in Afghanistan is plotting a comeback once U.S. and international forces withdraw from the country. U.S. officials say the terrorist leader is laying the groundwork, bringing in small numbers of experienced militants to train a new generation of fighters. Meanwhile, the U.S. has stepped up drone strikes in two mountainous eastern provinces, seeking to prevent the creation of terrorist training camps. U.S. and Afghan negotiators are stalled over a troop agreement, which could result in a total pullout by U.S. forces, making it harder to keep al-Qaeda and the Taliban from gaining strength.
Radical Islamist rebels in the Syrian city of Raqqa are forcing Christians to pay for protection. The Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham published the terms on the internet. Christians must pay the protection tax twice a year, convert to Islam, or face the sword. In return, the Christians will be allowed to worship privately, keep their own cemeteries, and have their own clergy. But sharing their faith or publicly displaying the cross is forbidden. They also will not be allowed to rebuild damaged or destroyed churches.
For the first time in Israel's modern history, the Knesset granted Arab Christians separate legal recognition from Muslim Arabs. The bill allows Arab Christians to identify themselves solely as Christians. It also gives them representation on an important economic commission. The bill is part of a larger movement integrating Arab Christians more fully into Israeli life. One Greek Orthodox priest is encouraging Arab Christians to join the Israeli army.
Here at home, a recent debate over evolution is helping fund an effort to build a life-size replica of Noah's Ark. The Creation Museum's Ken Ham is behind the project, and he recently held an evolution debate with Bill Nye, the science guy. Around 7 million people tuned in. Ham says the event is generating badly needed funds for the Ark. Paul Strand visited its future site and has more.
It took years, but the money has flowed in sufficiently for the folks who built the Creation Museum to begin construction of a gigantic life-size Noah's Ark. That's a word from Creation Museum Director Ken Ham. And if the cash keeps coming, eventually it will be surrounded by a theme park, the Ark Encounter, that supporters say will be a Bible-based blast. The Ark itself will stretch as far as you can see these little white flags, just off Kentucky's I-75, 40 minutes from the Creation Museum. And that biblically accurate Ark will tower mighty high and wide. Patrick Marsh, art director on the Jaws and King Kong attractions at Universal, designed the Ark Encounter.
You're going to be looking at a skyscraper. It's going to be that kind of thing, but it's going to be very, very long skyscraper, a lot longer than a football field, about 1.5 times the size of a football field.
This thing is rated to hold over 10,000 people at one time.
Project manager Mike Zelvath showed CBN News around the massive piece of real estate where the Ark will sit on pylons 12 feet high off the ground. He says seeing the Ark will make the Bible account of it plausible.
It's not something that's just a wild, crazy fairy tale. You know, we can show you how it was built and show you that Noah and his family could have built the thing.
If the financing continues to flow, the really big boat will eventually be one of just many fun-filled attractions in the 800-acre Ark Encounter. Marsh says just behind the Ark,
we got camel and pony rides for adults and kids.
And then there's a Tower Babel, which is in another valley over.
A massive petting zoo area will feature all sorts of animal shows, and a giant aviary will be filled with exotic birds. Kids will go crazy for the action-packed children's area.
I mean, it's filled with net climbs. It's filled with just all kinds of places for them to run and play. We've got zip lines in there, little zip lines for them. We've got rocks to climb. We've got all kinds of caves for them to explore.
But if you make your way across the whole park to this building, you'll get
to what we call the 10 Plagues ride, which is our only real ride that we had planned.
And in there, after the plagues, you'll experience a famous parting.
There's going to be a Red Sea. And then we got a first-century village where you can sit down and have a meal with the disciples and learn what the times and what it was like being with Jesus.
Nazareth or Bethlehem, something that looks like that.
Lively live entertainment will constantly perk the park up.
We've got parades, we've got actors, we've got jugglers, we've got sword swallowers and fire eaters.
Standing on the Ark site, Zovath says roughly $140 million will make it all happen.
70 to get this done and another 70 to do the rest of the park.
Marsh says it'll be worth the expense because research indicates 2/3 of Americans will want to come to this Bible-centered site, 1.2 million minimum in just the first year.
You think about it, how many churches actually reach 1.2 million people with the gospel, in this country?
The place will definitely be a blast for believers, but there's a deeper purpose.
And the whole point of building the Ark Encounter is to reach people that wouldn't go to church, who wouldn't necessarily, look into what Christianity is about, who Jesus really is.
Soon they'll come to gape at the Ark, but maybe go gripping the cross. Paul Strand, CBN News, Williamstown, Kentucky.
Looks like a great project there. Well, in other news, after one of the worst droughts in years, California is finally getting much-needed rain, but too much too quickly is causing some problems across the state.
Dirt, rocks, mud, and water, and it's going that way.
Heavy rain is forcing the evacuation of more than 1,000 homes in the Los Angeles suburbs. In the Bay Area, storms have caused more than 100 crashes. There are also big worries about flash flooding and mudslides in areas recently burned by wildfires. Forecasters say the rainfall totals will reach up to 3 inches across the coasts and valley, with up to 6 inches in the foothills and the mountains. The same system could bring snow, ice, and rain to central and eastern states by Sunday.
Well, one of the biggest aims of President Obama's new initiative to reach young minority men is to help those growing up without fathers. Jennifer Wishon tells us about Mr. Obama's personal push to make a difference in these kids' lives.
When Chicago high school student Christian Champagne learned about a program called BAM, a name that stands for Becoming a Man, he tried it because once a week it got him out of geometry class. But what started as an excuse changed his life.
A year ago, I was closed off. Like, I don't care about people. I care about myself. But now I can have a conversation. You know, gives me confidence and a boost to my self-esteem, and helps me open up about what's going on in my life and how I feel that day.
Like too many men of color, Champagne's father is rarely around, and boys without dads are much more likely to be poor and fail at school.
Your dad is the #1 goal of that standard of how to be a man and how to handle your business like a man.
Thursday, he introduced another man who grew up without his dad, the President of the United States.
I could see myself in these young men. And the only difference is that I grew up in an environment that was a little bit more forgiving. So when I made a mistake, the consequences were not as severe.
So the president is launching My Brother's Keeper, a new initiative to encourage more programs like BAM that keep minority men on track by helping them mature emotionally and set worthwhile goals. Instead of tax dollars, private foundations are investing hundreds of millions of dollars to find out which strategies work. Despite being the nation's first African-American president, Mr. Obama rarely targets programs to specific groups. But in this case, he says, unlocking the full potential of young Black and Latino men will eventually benefit all Americans.
In this country, we have a responsibility to help each other. And so when we see people who are mired in these horrible environments, we all have to stand up and do something.
For young men like Champagne and Karan Turner, having a man, especially the president, take an interest in their lives means everything.
He wants us to live up to our full potential, and he knows that we can do better, and he wants us to strive for more.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, the White House.
Coming up, entertainment that inspires. CBN News is at this year's Movieguide Awards.
As Hollywood prepares to honor its top stars at the Academy Awards on Sunday, another ceremony is working to put inspirational entertainment in the spotlight.
Studies show that moviegoers prefer films with a Christian worldview. And as Charlene Israel reports, these types of movies are getting more and more attention.
Lights, cameras, and plenty of fashion. But this isn't your run-of-the-mill red carpet event. Lots of stars came out to celebrate faith and family-friendly movies and TV shows here at the 22nd Annual Movieguide Awards in Los Angeles, California. Hundreds attended the grand awards show, including MC and comedian Bill Engvall.
I'm a huge fan of those kind of movies and those TV shows, and I want to see them push more to the forefront than be a smaller award show.
Actress A.J. Michalka received her honor for the inspirational movie Grace Unplugged.
I want people to feel like they can make great, legitimate, beautiful stories that really have a deep message that families are going to kind of not just be entertained by, but also maybe talk about in the car on the way home. To me, that's the biggest thing.
Actor and Disney star Jacob Lattimore starred in the film Black Nativity, a story about keeping your faith and family even in tough times. A message the young actor says is needed now more than ever.
We have a lot of just people that are lost in this world, and we can insight people and reassure people on certain messages through movies, through film, because they're really just life on the screen. I think Black Nativity definitely played a part in that.
The Bible series won the ratings and hearts of America when it aired on the History Channel last year. It also scored big at this year's Movieguide Awards. Roma Downey, co-creator of the Bible Project, won the Grace Award in television for Best Actress for her role of Jesus' mother in the series.
I think that the success of the Bible series really got the attention of the nation and certainly of our industry. 100 million people showed up, and I think it was really quite extraordinary. And, you know, now we're seeing lots of other faith-themed films coming down the pipeline. So I think that's very encouraging.
Willie Robertson of Duck Dynasty fame agrees. Movieguide awarded the hit reality show with the Faith and Freedom Award for TV.
I think we see it. I think we see it in our numbers. I was speaking with Mark before, and we were talking about, you know, the Bible, and between that and Duck Dynasty, there was a whole lot of people that tuned in. So hopefully we see that catching on, and we see more and more things that are positive come out. We're happy to be a part of it.
Actress Holly Robinson Peete says demand for wholesome entertainment is growing.
I just think that family movies are so important, and I'm not sure why Hollywood is not getting the message that we need something every Friday when the movies open up. We need something that we can all go see as a family together.
Johnny Erickson Tata made an appearance at the awards and performed the song Alone Yet Not Alone from the movie of the same title. And while Hollywood gives itself a pat on the back at this year's Oscars, the Movieguide Awards is staying true to its mission to celebrate entertainment that inspires and uplifts. Charlene Israel, CBN News, Hollywood, California.
That is great to see. And the Movieguide Awards will air on Reels TV this Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Pacific Time.
Up next, African Americans on the mission field. How one woman is working to educate the Black church about its missionary history. Welcome back. February is Black History Month, but there's one part of that history few people know.
That's right. The first missionary from America was a black man and a former slave. And now there's a call for black Christians to reclaim their heritage on the mission field.
In tonight's Focus Report, Ephraim Graham speaks with one missionary who's leading the way.
The richness of the African American experience is heard in the very songs the choir sings on Sunday mornings. It's a richness that includes work far beyond the church walls.
We need to go back to our roots. I've been in mission many years, and when I started, the cry from other countries, other nations of people, they asked me, are there any African American missionaries?
In fact, America's first missionary was George Liele. Liele was an emancipated slave who started the first African Baptist church in Savannah, Georgia, before heading to Jamaica in 1782 to start others.
I know that nothing good happens to anybody.
It's a history lesson missionary Brenda Stratton shares often. Her ministry message to the nations works to encourage more people to pursue missions work.
From a little girl, God called me into the field of mission. I didn't understand it because I thought a missionary was a little lady, go to Africa with a bun on her head, never to be seen again. So I didn't want that portion of it. When God called me, he told me, he said, I'm calling you to answer a slave woman's prayer. He said that she's crying for her children to be free, but really free. And I'm sending you, as a result of her prayers, to go and free people.
One of her latest projects is bringing electricity and a computer lab to a mud hut village in Ghana. Still, numbers show there's more work to be done. For example, a Christianity Today report showed the number of black churches in the Southern Baptist Convention has grown more than 80% in the last decade to 3,400 U.S. congregations. But of the convention's 4,900 international missionaries, only 27 were black.
The world knows that African Americans have suffered from slavery and other atrocities in life. And so they're interesting to know, especially now that there has become an African American president, how did God take you through some of the issues that you have? Because we face some of the issues.
Stratton says sometimes the issues of poverty and struggle right outside the church's doors keep them from missions abroad. But
mission includes everything. God said to your Jerusalem, Judea, and the uttermost. He didn't say choose. He said to do it all. There's enough work for us all to do. We don't do one at the neglect of another.
And no one voice can replace another on the mission field.
The African American church became a place of refuge. It became, in some ways, an invented culture. And I don't say that disrespectfully. I believe it was a collaboration of the Holy Spirit, of God, with a wounded, rejected, orphaned people who found refuge in Him.
That unique story is why YWAM's John Dawson works with Brenda Stratton. He encourages African Americans to take to the mission field and not to assume there's only work for them in Africa.
So we always say, for instance, the Koreans are the key to reaching Japan because they're similar North Asians. But the Japanese are fascinated with gospel music.
And even music can open the door to a mission field where the harvest is plentiful and the laborers are few. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Up next, a request to first responders turns into an outpouring of love for a Rhode Island boy.
And finally tonight, one Rhode Island mom has learned the truth behind the saying, ask and you shall receive.
Yeah, that after a Facebook post requesting birthday cards for her sick son. Rachel Sedan made a page on Facebook and posted a video asking first responders to send birthday cards to Tyler, her 6-year-old son battling leukemia. Within 2 weeks, the Facebook page had more than 17,000 likes, and packages addressed to Tyler started flooding the local post office.
The last big delivery that I've seen like this was Newtown, where of course we received over 500,000 pieces of mail.
People have sent badges from like Vietnam, like some of their personal belongings that are probably not only sentimental value, but they probably have great value to them.
And get this, in all, they've received well over 500 items, including an Army uniform and mail all the way from the UK.
This is a great example when Facebook is such a blessing.
That's right.
I mean, it can be a pain sometimes, but we just pray that God completely heals that little boy in Jesus' name.
That's right.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, have a great weekend. Take care.